This video will show you how to set up categories and your traditional grade scales. There are 3 steps here. We first need to create our categories, then set up our traditional grade calculations, and lastly, you're able to copy those grade calculations to the same class, to a different term, or to another class. Now, before I get started, I'm going to want to get out my course outline or my course assessment plan, and that will guide how I set up my categories and my traditional grade calculation. So first of all, inside PowerTeacher Pro, I may want to have a look and see what categories already exist at the district level. So I'll just go to Grading, and I'm going to click on Categories. And I can see here a variety of categories that are available at the district level and other ones that have been set up individually. So when I'm ready to create a category, I'll simply go over to Create, click on Category, and I'll select which classes it belongs to. I can have them belong, the default is all classes, or I can simply select certain ones. So I'll just say category name. So I'll just say chapter tests. Okay, I'll make that one red. I'll make sure that it's active. And then before I hit save, I can just click on the assignment default. I can say whether I want it to have defaults. So if I always wanted it to be out of points and maybe out of 10 points, when it's going to be published and the scores and whether it counts in the final grade. Now these are completely customizable every time you enter an assignment, but this is just setting the defaults. And then I'll simply hit save. So I would just repeat that process until I had all the categories that I need according to my course assessment plan. Once the categories are all set up, I'm going to click down here onto Settings, and I'm going to go to Traditional Grade Calculations. So here in Traditional Grade Calculations, you'll see this, I can expand all to see all my courses, or I can collapse them here. I'm just going to open up one, and this is again the junior high setup with terms. And so here underneath reporting term, you'll see Y1 for the year long, T1, 2, 3, and then exam 1, which is your final exam. So you are going to need to configure each weighting. By default, it's going to always default to total points. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into Y1, and I'm going to hit this edit pencil. So Y1 is going to be a combination of T3, and that's going to be 90%, and final exam 1, which is going to be 10%. And you make sure here that we want term weighting. So the reason why we have just T3 here is because T1 and 2 are nested below that. And then exam 1 is our final exam. So that's what's going to be calculating our year-long scores. Okay, so you would just simply adjust these to your calculation. And just as a reminder, in our AP 365, it's recommended that district exams are not worth more than 20%. Okay, so and then I'll just close that. Now I have to go and configure each term. So here, I'm going to go over here to the E, and again, remember this will say defaulting to total points. And I'll go into the edit pencil, and I will add my categories. And you might only have one category to start with, so you'll just click on this edit pencil and select category, and select your select the category in which that would be, and then you will adjust your weighting. So I'm just going to delete this one to get it back to how it was, and then I can either manually set it up in exactly the same in T2 and T1, or there is an option when you're in your own to copy assignments copy grade calculations within a class. And that's just a little bit further along in this video. Last but not least, I just need to configure my E1, and E1 is going to be worth, in this category, it's still just 100% because there's only one thing making that up, and that's the final exam. And so we'll just leave that we'll set that to category weighting, Set that at 100% and save it. Because as you remember, in Y1, T3 and E1 make up that year 1 mark. So now we're going to look at how to copy your grade calculations. This little icon here will allow us to copy traditional grade calculations. So I'm just going to choose here. I can say copy terms within. So if I did have terms, I don't in this test server, but it's going to go to another class. So I could just say, okay, I want it to go from semester 1, and I only have 1 course there, to semester 2, and I only have 1 class there. And then I'll simply click on validate. You'll notice here that recalculate final grades is set. That I would generally leave that on by default. I will click on validate, gives me a little summary, and then I'll just simply click on copy. And I would repeat that process to continue to copy your grade calculation to other classes. And just a little note about grade calculations. I'm going to click on the edit pencil here. As you notice, one of the types is total points, and that is what it defaults to if you don't select category weighting. With total points, you're going to want to be careful that you do not skew student results. For example, if you are using total points to calculate the traditional grade calculation, and sometimes total points is used for CTF or option courses, you're going to just need to be very cognizant of how many points each assignment is worth. We don't want to inadvertently weight an individual assignment more than a unit exam. So for example, if a unit exam was out of 20 points and an individual assignment was out of 40 points, that unit exam is only worth half as much as that assignment. So you just need to keep that in mind. You might find it easier to sort of calculate out the value of each assignment or assessment that you are doing if you're using total points, and just to make sure that they are weighted accordingly.